Hello, everybody. It's great to be here. Kirsty, thank you for the very kind introduction. Friends, Anima folks have worked tirelessly to put this conference together. Let's give it up for them. If you said to me when I was a kid, I was going to be in Warsaw, Poland, with 500 vegans, I would have been a little surprised. You see, I cared about one animal, Hector. Yeah, oh, Hector, he's a cute dog. He's a dog the size of a bear. I loved him so much, in spite of the fact he never loved me back. Later in high school, I eventually went to this video store. I got this tape, put it in the VCR, and it was a documentary about bad things that go on in the world. And I saw for the first time how animals are raised and killed for food. And so I made that connection that so many of you probably made before me. Why love Hector so much while ignore the suffering of all those other animals? So I went vegetarian and went vegan. In college, started an animal rights group. Worked with the dining hall to add more plant-based foods. My big victory is getting peanut butter and jelly sandwiches offered. Huge, big win. Yes. Protested the circus when it came to town. After graduation, went to work at Compassion Over Killing, where I would give out leaflets. We did these open rescues, and I did undercover investigations. There was one investigation that I still feel it 20 years later. It was at a chicken slaughterhouse. And let me just set the baseline, friends. So I was a bad undercover investigator. I was overconfident. I was cocky. I thought no one could catch me. And that led to mistakes and carelessness. So one day I was there for about a couple weeks, and I was like, I'm feeling good. No one knows anything. So I went in my pocket, and I took out my camera, and I just started taking photographs of everything. And within seconds, a pickup truck just stormed to me. Brakes slammed. Hopped out was the head of security. He was dressed in what looked like law enforcement fatigue. He got in my face, and he said, "What are you doing?" I panicked. I couldn't believe I already got caught. What the heck? I was so silly what I was doing. So I was stumbling and I was just saying, "Oh, well, I just wanted to show my friends and family where I worked." And he said, eyes curled down and eyebrows just like angled towards with anger. "Really?" he said to me. And I said, well, trying to maintain some composure, I think I'm kind of like an amateur photographer. I thought it was cool that like during my break I could do that, take some photos. Is that a problem? And then he got close to me, just face level. He said, "You're not an animal rights guy, are you?" No, not me. In fact, I said, "Can I give you my camera? Can you take a photo of me?" He took the camera, kind of examined it a little bit. Then he calmed down. He said, "Okay, take a couple steps back." Aimed the lens at me. He said, "Smile." Click. And that's the photo he took. Underneath that baggy shirt was a whole lot of wires and batteries strapped to me. And behind that forced smile was pure panic. But I got through it, and I didn't make that mistake again. While that was memorable, the reason why that investigation, though, still stands in my mind is because of the first day. I got there about 4 a.m. My shift started around 4:30. Went to the waiting area where all the workers were. They were tired and miserable. They were just drinking old coffee from styrofoam cups. Went to the locker room where you put on those overalls. You kind of put one leg in, the other leg in, you put your arm in, the other arm in, then you zip up. Then you put on the net on your head. Then we're ushered into the shackling room by the manager. Now, I'm not going to show you what it was like in there, but I want to talk about it. No. This is all good. It's this meant to be like this? Yeah, it's meant to be like this. It's all good. Bear with me. I know what I'm doing. So when you walk in, you get hit with like a wall of stench. It's a noxious smell of defecation and blood. You just know something bad is going on in there. The next step you take is towards the conveyor belt where the manager points you where to stand. You stand on the far right, he said. So I went to the conveyor belt, which is about waist high. The shackles are about eye level. To my left were all the workers. Just stood there for a couple minutes. Then to my left, a truck came up. A dump what looked like a sea of white onto the conveyor belt. Then the conveyor belt started to move. The shackles started to rotate. Then the birds started heading my way. The workers grabbed most of them. But one bird got through the gauntlet of hands and ended up right in front of me. And my stomach just got sick knowing what I was about to do. So I grabbed the chicken by her legs. Her legs were all twisted and mangled because of the selective breeding. She flapped her wings as hard as she could to try to escape. She bent her head up to peck at my hands to let her go. I looked at her face, and she was so scared. She was so frightened. And as I shackled her, I said underneath my breath, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And then she was gone. This life the chicken was forced to endure, that horrific end. What did she do to deserve that? That chicken forever changed my life. Ego, self-importance, it seemed out of place. It seemed amateur. It seemed selfish in the face of such a moral atrocity. Instead, what she needed, what the animals deserve, is a feeling of privilege that I have the humble duty to do whatever it takes to serve them. When you put the animals first over yourself, you start realizing that in order to make the change that we all want, it can't be up to one person. It's not one person's success. It's all of our success. We all have to make a difference. We all are in this together. And when I think about this humble duty, I think about how when I have a chance to meet so many of you, I don't want to meet you as, hey, this is some person at a different organization. No, I want to meet you as a friend and as a teammate. No matter who you are, no matter who you work for, no matter where you live, we're all in this together. That Latin phrase really fits. Out of many, we are one. And when I think again about that humble duty, listen, I fall short. Sometimes I do on that. And I'm going to make mistakes. But I'm so fortunate to to have people in my life that remind me of this lesson every single day because of the actions they take. Every once in a while, I also get rejuvenated by this lesson by a chance encounter. So this is Matteo. Matteo's from Italy. He went by himself to Amsterdam to join Sharon, to join Umbretta, to join Lucrezia, to join animal equality folks who are waging a campaign there. He went by himself to another country to campaign in a different language against a company that does not exist in his country, to help animals who are not in his country. And by the way, all day, he either had his mouth taped shut or he's screaming at the top of his lungs in a megaphone. I mean, it's one of the two. And so after a week, folks went to dinner and I happened to be in town for a meeting. And they were so kind to invite me to this dinner, so I sat down and it was a big long table and Matteo was on the far right, I was on the other side, so we didn't really talk, but at the end, I just went up to him and was like, "Hey, Matteo, so nice to meet you." And he said something to me and I couldn't hear him. The music was loud and his voice was hoarse. I was like, "Hey, can you say it one more time? I just missed it." He said it one more time and embarrassingly, I just couldn't make it out. I was like, "Matteo, it's on me. I'm so sorry. One more time." So he smiled with such radiant warmth and perfect enunciation. He said, "Until all the cages are empty." That's all he said. Talk about humble duty. Until all the cages are empty is what so many of you are living for every single day. In the United States, we're trying to do the same. And in the battle to free animals from cages, none was bigger legislatively than California's Prop 12 campaign. Let me give you a little bit of background. We've been passing laws in different states, banning gestation crates and veal crates and battery cages. Every law is important, one law built on the other law. At the same time, we did not yet have the battle that if we won would change our country forever. But we felt the momentum was right. Let's take that leap. So we waged Prop 12. It was a ballot measure. So to be clear, what a ballot measure is that you collect signatures on a government petition. If you collect enough of these signatures, you can put a question on the ballot. So when people vote for president or governor or senator, they vote for your question too. And if they vote for it, it becomes law. So what we would put on the ballot is to ban battery cages, gestation crates, and veal crates, and importantly, the sale of eggs, pork, and veal from caged animals. It would be the strongest law in the United States, if not the world, and because California is the world's 4th largest economy and the most populous state in the country, we knew the impact would be massive. So we collected the requisite 500,000 signatures and we made it to the ballot after 6 months. That's when the battle began. Us versus big agribusiness interests, some of those powerful interests in the entire United States. On their side, they had money and connections. Who did we have on our side? We had thousands of volunteers. That's right. Look at that kid. Look at that kid. Come on. Thousands of volunteers making calls to voters, text messaging voters, knocking on doors of homes, talking to voters one-on-one, holding up signs at busy intersections, having rallies, giving out leaflets. We had celebrities support us, encouraging all their fans, all their followers to vote yes on Proposition 12. I would go up and down the state debating agribusiness on TV, radio, in front of newspaper editorial boards, where after one debate, the LA Times, the most read newspaper in California, endorsed Proposition 12 and encouraged everyone to vote yes for it. We placed more advertising on this campaign for farm animals than any time in US history. $13 million, TV, online ads. I'm gonna show you a quick 30-second spot. Listen, there's some factory farm footage. If you don't wanna look, it's 30 seconds.
No animal should experience this suffering. It's cruel, and the extreme confinement puts all of us at risk. Confining animals in filthy, packed cages leads to more disease and threatens the safety of your food. We can do better. Please join California veterinarians and the Center for Food Safety and vote yes on Prop 12. Yes to update California standards. Yes to prevent animal cruelty. Yes to protect food safety. Yes on 12.
And when election night came and the votes were tallied, the battle against agribusiness concluded. And it was the animals, not their abusers, who won with 63% of the vote. We did not rest after Prop 12. The next year we passed similar cage-free laws in Washington, Oregon, Michigan, the year after in Colorado. In fact, in Colorado, the governor is so pro-animal, he signed a legislation into law surrounded by chickens running around him, and to celebrate, he gave vegan cupcakes to the reporters. What a way to get a law passed for farm animals. And we went to Utah, Nevada, Massachusetts, Arizona. Now 25% of Americans live in states where battery cages are banned, and most of the states also make it a crime to even sell eggs from caged chickens. We went from a barren landscape of laws for farm animals to now this progress. This is what progress looks like, my friends. In the United States, maybe like your country too, we're not going to legislate our way out of cages and crates. We have to do more. We have to get the big food companies, like those based in Wall Street, New York, to stop selling eggs and pork from caged animals. That's why so many of you wage your corporate campaigns. We do the same in the United States. Let me tell you about what probably is the most epic corporate campaign that's been waged, and it was against the #1 brand of food, McDonald's. So McDonald's in the 1990s and 2000s, they were talking a good game. They were talking about how bad gestation crates are and how horrible battery cages are. But they didn't do anything. And it was hard to move them. So eventually in 2012, we found ourselves a really strong ally. His name is Carl Icahn. One person knows who he is. Carl is known as the scariest businessman in the history of the United States. He is a corporate raider. He invests hundreds of millions of dollars in a company, enough money to fire the CEO, kick out the board of directors, put his person in as CEO, put his people on as the board. Then investors, if they like what he did, will invest more money in the company. The share price goes up. He then sells his shares and makes a lot of money. And that's how he became so successful and the wealthiest people in the United States. Oh wait, there's one more detail. He cares about animals. His daughter worked for me at the Humane Society of the United States. Son's a friend, also cares about animals. So we went to him, this is 2012. Hey Carl, can you help us out with McDonald's? Can you make a call to the CEO? He said, sure. So Carl called the CEO of McDonald's, who was on a vacation. But the CEO took the call. Because when Carl Icahn calls you, you answer the phone. CEO's like, hey Carl, what's going on? What's the pleasure I have for hearing your voice? Carl gets right to the point. That's the type of guy he is. The chickens, the pigs, I don't like how they're raised for you. The CEO, completely shocked, is silent. Eventually said, oh, wait, I'm sorry? Wait, what are you upset about? They're in cages. They're in cages. And the CEO's like, all right, can you just give me some time? I don't even know what you're talking about here. Can I have time to look at it? Carl said, okay, I'll give you a week. If you don't move in a week, I'm going after the board. CEO was like, all right, give me a week. After a week, CEO came back and said, okay, we're getting rid of gestation crates. Then negotiations continued for the next several years, and then they announced, hey, we're going 100% cage-free. That's good. Hey, good commitments. However, I think many of you know where I'm going on this. It's one thing to make a commitment. It's another thing to follow through on one. And McDonald's they were not moving the way they said. They weren't keeping up with what they promised. So let's fast forward to 2022. Went to Carl again. I was like, hey, Carl. And Carl, when he gets a little angry, he's kind of like a grumpy grandpa when he gets angry. So he's like, what's going on? I was like, hey, remember when you got McDonald's make those changes for those farm animals? Of course. Like what? What's going on? I said, well, they're not following through. They didn't keep their word. And he said, you gotta be kidding me. It's like, no, I'm serious. Can you help out? So I was just hoping he'd make another call or maybe send a letter. Instead, he said, okay, this is what we're doing. We're gonna call for the firing of 2 board members. We're gonna nominate 2 of your friends to the board, and that's how we're gonna push McDonald's. Talk about escalation. I was like, Carl, that sounds great. I wouldn't even know where to start. He's like, don't worry, I got it. To give Carl credit, he went forward with this. He called for the firing of 2 of the board members, nominated 2 friends, 2 very high qualified people. One runs a private equity firm, another is an executive of a food service company, and he took on McDonald's. And when it became public, the media went bonkers over this story. It got more media attention than any farm animal action in the history of the United States. The media couldn't handle Carl Icahn going after McDonald's over farm animals. Let me show you a quick clip.
For decades, Carl Icahn, the billionaire investor, has been at the center of some of the biggest corporate takeovers and investments. Now the man known as the Lone Wolf of Wall Street is taking on the world's biggest fast food chain over its treatment of pigs. Over the weekend, Icahn launched a proxy battle with McDonald's by nominating 2 new directors to the company's board. Icahn has asked the fast food chain to stop sourcing pork from farmers who use so-called gestation stalls. They're small crates for pregnant pigs, which have been widely criticized as inhumane. Icahn, who owns a small stake in McDonald's, says his motivation has nothing to do with making a profit.
I think there's a way that I can be really helpful to seeing that happen, because I think that's a situation that's just horrible. It's obscene. You got these companies making all this money and these animals just suffering for no reason.
So what happened? Well, we didn't get our nominees on the board. We knew that was an uphill battle. But we had high-level discussions with the CEO about animal welfare, and the immense attention got them to move. And on pork, on their commitment to switch all of their supply to group housed, they achieved it at the end of 2024. The biggest group house commitment in US history. And on eggs, 2 billion eggs that they source annually, they got to 100% cage-free in 2023, 2 years faster than they originally committed. That's a corporate victory. That's how we win. Now, we're all happy about this. However, not everyone was. The pork industry wasn't so thrilled. Their trade group said it's disconcerting that retailers are making decisions about sourcing pork products continue to succumb to the pressure of activist groups. I know we all mourn for the National Pork Producers Council. Let me share. This work is tangible. We're seeing actual lives change. Let's talk about this change that's happened in the United States. If we were gathered here 10 years ago the percentage of mother pigs who are outside gestation crates in commercial settings was close to zero. Close to zero. Now, according to the pork producers, it's more than 40% towards group housing. And that quote was from last year. We're about 50% of the way away from gestation crates in the United States. Let's talk about cage-free. 10 years ago, we're gathering here, about 10% cage-free. Now, nearly 50% of the egg industry is cage-free. My friends, that is about 150 million egg-laying hens annually who are free from cages, who if the status quo remained would be caged. It's the greatest reduction of suffering in U.S. history. This progress is not because of one person or 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people. It's because of so many people for so many years, including people in this room today and people back in the United States who have devoted their lives to see their progress. For everybody who worked their heart out to see this happen, let's please give it up to all those folks. It's okay, it's black. As we look forward, sometimes I look backwards. I like reading history. I like reading about other movements to abolish slavery, civil rights, the right for women to vote. And I learn from them. I get inspired by them. At the same time, there's a hard truth. What we are fighting for, to eliminate all suffering for all farm animals forever globally, is a much more challenging task. We can't be as effective as those movements that came before. We have to be more effective. And I don't say this to put more of a burden on our shoulders. I say this because I know we can. Here's how. This is Jake. Jake, let's be honest, not all dogs are funny. Jake was hilarious. He was silly, he was clever. We had such a bond, unbreakable. So we grew up, spent so much time together. As he got older, we were walking and he never needed a leash. He would always just walk right next to me. And one day, he just stopped and you could tell he was just having some problems. And then it happened again, and it would happen again. We knew something was wrong. So we went to the vet and did an x-ray, and Jake had cancer, just spread throughout his lungs. I sent the results to as many veterinarians as I could find. The answers were all the same. There's nothing we could do. So I had that very hard question asked to my friend who's a veterinarian. When do I know when I should say goodbye? When do I know when to let him go? And she said, there's never really a right answer to that. But when he stops eating, that's probably when you know he's in too much pain. So the days went by, and I just wanted to make sure that they were as wonderful for him as possible. He couldn't make it up on the bed, so eventually we just slept on the ground together. One morning I woke up and I got his food and I dumped it in his bowl and I put it in front of him, and he didn't eat it. And I froze. I knew what that meant. So I put my hand in the bowl and scooped out the food, and I put it in front of his mouth. And with tears pouring down my face, I just begged him, please, Jake, please eat this. Please eat this. And he couldn't. So that day, we took him to his favorite park. Spent the day there together. It's a beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous day. And at the end, we just laid on the side of a hill, facing the buildings of San Francisco, the sun going down behind them. And when the vet came over, I was holding him. And the last words that I said to him was, Jake, I love you. Thank you for everything. I'll never forget you. And that was it. Here's why I share this story. If someone came up to me during that time and showed me a vial and said, there is a cure to Jake's cancer in here, all you have to do is win that campaign, you would never see me more effective in your life. I would go to a whole new level. I would work faster. I would bring more people in. I would be more aggressive. I'd be more thoughtful. I'd be more innovative, creative. I would just hit a different stage than I've ever hit. And my guess is that you all would do the same for any of the animals who you've lost to. And that is why I have hope. Is because we have accomplished so much together. And while we have so much more to do, we all have so much more in us to give. Let's finish what we started. The animals deserve nothing less from us. And I know we're not going to let them down. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello? 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 There we go. Okay. So we only have one question. If you have any other questions, please put them on the Eventry app now. That would be great. And in the meantime, I will start with this one. Can you describe what farms look like after gestation crates, battery cages, and veal crates are gone?
That's a great question. It's not utopia. In commercial settings, there's still issues for all of them. For cage-free, typically, and this is the United States and throughout Europe, there's still thousands of animals inside that typically don't go outdoors. That's not good. What is better, though, is that rather than being for egg-laying hens being confined in a small cage about the size of a microwave, we all know what they look like, they're at least able to run around within the barn. They can at least perch and scratch and dust bathe. They can have a vastly better life. For veal calves, at least they're able to walk around typically with other veal calves. And for mother pigs in non-gestation crate facilities, typically they live in these group pen settings where at least they're able to walk around. They can socialize with other pigs. They can lie down more comfortably. Again, not utopia, but a dramatically better life. And if any of us had to choose from living in a cage where you never could turn around your whole life to living in one of these situations where at least you're able to move, you would always choose living in one of those situations. So it's a massive improvement, something we should all be proud of, the minimum standard that we are raising around the world.
Thank you. A question from me. What do you think that we could be doing, like, other than working as if we're all working for Jake every day? As a movement, do you see something that we could be doing better?
Well, I have been very US-centric, and I defer to so many of you on what to do around the world. I can tell you what has been helpful in the United States, at least, is that now more than ever, groups are working together. And I find that highly effective is that folks are getting together, and I swear it's not as different organizations. You get together in a room and you strategize. It's just friends figuring out the best path forward, and then organizing and working on particular targeted campaigns. That's what we have found to be effective. That's how we have gained so much traction. And that's, frankly, I know some folks, or many folks, are working like that around the world, and I say let's keep doing that.
Thank you. Okay, and just to let everyone know, there are questions in the app. If you want specific ones to be definitely asked, you can upvote them, so that's how I know which ones to choose. Okay, so a question from Mahi. Can you share some more examples of campaigns that were won thanks to smart tactics?
Thanks, Mahi. Well, we're trying to get to German level in the United States. So huge props to the Albert Schweitzer Foundation, and yeah, there you go. Mahi is the one who yelled, whoo, there we go. And so many others I know who are working in Germany as well. So right now, there's a battle in the United States Congress to ensure that these laws are maintained. And one of the things that we have found is highly effective is to bring in farmers who are on our side, because they've already made the changes. They've already invested in the new equipment, and they happen to be a good voice to legislators and politicians who probably will not listen to any of us. So that combination of bringing animal people in with farmers who've already made the changes, I have found to be effective, and so far has been effective at fighting back the forces that are trying to go backwards in the United States. I know it's something that in Germany, I believe Mahi's once told me, sorry if I'm wrong on this, pal, is that farmers have actually been saying, yeah, give us money that we'll move away from these practices too. We're not going to fight this, we'll keep moving. That seems like a good thing to bring in different types of voices so that we can hit different people, so we have more of a holistic coalition moving forward in the same direction that we all want to go anyway.
Thank you. Oh, it's louder now. Okay, next question. Do you have any advice or comments on doing this kind of work sustainably and continuously?
What I have found helpful is doing it with a whole lot of friends and laughing and partying and getting to know each other and goofing around, not taking things too seriously. Let's go all in on campaigns. That's serious work. Let's do it. Game on. At the same time, what I have found most cherishing personally is the friendships that I've gained along the way. So I say, let's just do it with our buddies, and that helps sustain us. That's what I would do.
Nice. The progress you describe is obviously awesome. Do you ever feel frustrated by fighting for such incremental change?
You know, I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know how incremental that is, honestly. Is that going from not able to turn around or not able to spread the wings to at least being able to engage in those behaviors we talked about? I think for a chicken, that's actually pretty big. And we are changing multi-billion-dollar industries. I mean, we are doing that. I find that a fascinating example of what relatively few people are doing in the world. So I think it's pretty awesome what we're doing. I think it's massive. However, what gets me is this, and what kind of fires me up is when those folks who fight back, that's fuel for me. Because oftentimes it's folks who they're making a good living, their lives are good, and they're fighting back to keep a status quo where these animals are being tortured for their own profits. So it's not frustration, it's more of fire, and that fuels me to keep fighting harder. And so I would say this, as much as I wish our opponents that we have to fight against would capitulate and do the right moral thing, the more they don't, the more they're just giving us fuel to keep fighting them. So yeah, go ahead, keep bringing it on.
It's your motto, bring it on. Okay, a lot of people have upvoted this question. Is Prop 12 and the achieved progress in danger because of Trump?
It is not in danger because of the president. The challenge is the United States Congress. There are forces that are trying to pass legislation through it that would overturn some of the laws that were talked today. So it's not the president in particular. I got to tell you, the former president, President Biden's administration, tried to overturn Prop 12. They weren't so good. This current administration, the head of the United States Department of Agriculture, that's the entity that oversees agriculture, they're trying to overturn Prop 12. So there's a common theme. Sometimes the animals don't have too many friends in big positions in government. So we have to fight in Congress to prevent these laws from passing, and I feel like that is going to be a perpetual thing until we have so many years in between the passage of Prop 12 and when it no longer makes sense for them to try to go backwards so much in time. So hey, that's what we do. We keep fighting. We're just going to have to keep on fighting back those forces.
I've just seen on the screen the picture of Hector. Have you seen that? Someone?
Oh,
that's very cute.
That's sweet. Thank you, whoever did that. It's very sweet.
Okay, what would you have done with McDonald's if you didn't have Carl Icahn? What would you do if you didn't have an influential backer?
Well, I can tell you what we do at the Accountability Board. That's something that I happen to know strategies that we do there. That's the organization that Kirsty mentioned that I co-founded and work at. We still use that investor approach, and we find that very effective to move companies. At the same time, I think what I would have done back then is things that are happening now is to work more closely with so many folks at different organizations. Back then, a mistake I made, and this is on me, I did stuff either by myself or with just the group I was at, and that was wrong. I would go back and work with friends. We'd find a good focus on our campaign, and then we would go together and try to win and then build off of that victory. That's probably what I would do back in time if we didn't have Carl on our side.
You mentioned starting your own company. We have a question about that. Did starting your own company give you some new perspective on corporate commitments?
Here's what I found, is that the company that I co-founded, Eat Just, myself and the CEO, his name is also Josh, and we became best of friends because we tried to be professional athletes when we were kids. Both of us miserably failed, but we built a friendship along the way. We care about animals, and we're in this for the animals. What I have learned is that the arguments being made to companies that would appeal to me and would perhaps appeal to you all just do not appeal to them. Most people at companies, ordinary people, probably care about doing a good job at work. They want to get promoted. They want to get raises. They want to grow with the company, maybe get higher up in the industry. That's their motivation. And any argument related to morality or what's going on with animals, I have found that probably doesn't appeal to them as much as it would for us. So to move them, there has to be things that would cause them to believe, wait a second, it is not worth dealing with this anymore. We should make these changes just to move forward past what has been some type of, to put it diplomatically, a distraction in their life. And that is what I have found has been the true understanding of where the typically opponents come from, more so than back in the day I tried to appeal to people's better angels, and that often didn't do the trick.
Okay, last call for questions. We still have a lot, so if you want your question asked, please add it to the app, and then hopefully people will upvote. Okay, let's see what we have. The McDonald's example clearly shows that we need big allies too. Do you have any suggestions of how we can meet the big guys in Europe?
Well, one, I'm more ignorant to Europe, so I would first have to know who are the big guys in Europe. I would just add this, is that whenever there is some chance of meeting someone that even has an inkling of care for animals, of a high position of power, just go for it. Just try reaching out to them. Just, no matter how many times it takes to email them, to call their assistant, to call their agent, just keep trying. What's the worst thing that happens? They just ignore you? That's what happens to us all the time anyway. So let's just keep trying, and you never know. If 1 out of 100 of those VIPs gets back to you, that could be the Carl icon we need. And so, I happen to know someone, and I won't reveal the story fully if you don't want me to, Kirsty. But
it's about me?
Yes. So I'll just say what Kirsty did, and I won't go over details. But Kirsty was trying to reach this person, this celebrity, to help out, and was going back and forth with this agent, and the agent just stopped returning Kirsty's calls, stopped returning her emails. First of all, who would do that to Kirsty? Shame on them. Boo, boo. Well, Kirsty didn't boo. She thought. And she's like, all right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna win with kindness. So she sent flowers to that person and a beautiful note. And you know what? That person emailed Kirsty. Now they're moving forward. There we go. So what would I do? I would be more like Kirsty.
I did not pay him to say this shit, sorry, but... Okay. Thanks, Josh. I'm going to ask a question that I want to hear the answer to because that's my privilege as facilitator. So, what's next for farmed animals in the USA?
We got to finish the job. We're halfway to get these animals out of cages and crates. We got to finish it. What a mistake I have made in my life was moving too fast away from issues. I don't know if any of you have made similar mistakes. But back in the day when we got these commitments, I was like, all right, I'm gonna move on to another issue. And all these years passed and turned out those companies did nothing. So I'm not gonna make that mistake again, and I'm not gonna answer your question, Kirsty. The reason why is because all we're gonna do is finish the job. Then ask me what we're gonna do next. There you go, that's my answer.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so you've done a lot of your most effective work as an individual or in very small partnerships, rather than in large organizations. Debatable, but is there a reason you've taken this approach rather than building an org around your work? What do you think large orgs can learn from your small team approach?
I think that the best example of a larger team moving in a way that I think is effective is California's Prop 12. There are thousands of volunteers, dozens of animal groups, all working together. We're all on the same team. And here's the constraint. We had a time frame we had to work in. We couldn't delay. And what I have found, and I've worked at organizations that are larger and, hey, filled with good people like so many of you, what I think we probably find is just speed is an issue. Bureaucracy is an issue. That's a human being thing. It's not a nefarious action, it just happens. And so what I would just challenge all of us is, what would it look like if we had to move fast, and anytime there's anything slow that came in our way, that was just a no-go. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, that's not what we do here. We don't slow things down, we just go faster. So what I would say is make speed part of the culture, just like so many things are part of the culture in many organizations. I think speed has to be a top culture item. And with speed, we're gonna make mistakes, and we have to accept it. It's all good. What I have found is it's better to make a mistake being too fast and too aggressive than being too slow and too passive. That's what I would recommend.
Okay, McDonald's isn't making any progress on its commitment in Latin American countries. How do you see companies making progress in countries where the laws are tougher, like the US, and in countries like Brazil, they don't make any progress, they don't answer to NGOs, and they aren't even transparent? We don't have a Carl there.
So you all know more about your country than I do. Much more, infinitely more. I would just tell you how we started in the United States. This is stuff that Aaron and I worked on a long, long time ago together. We started just getting some momentum. we started getting campuses to go cage-free. And that built some momentum. And then we got the food service companies that run the campuses to go cage-free. That built momentum. Then we got the smaller dining chains, smaller grocers to go cage-free. So at least what worked in the United States was building momentum, and that momentum started shifting supply chains, started shifting the media, started shifting the mindset, even from the big companies like, oh, wait a second, we see what's coming. So then they started moving, and by the way, then the next step with the big companies, we started saying, great, you'll switch 5% of your eggs to cage-free next year, we'll take it. Boom. Then they started sourcing cage-free the first time ever. Then it made it easier to then ask for the 20%, the 40%, the 60%. So that's what we do in the United States. Please know you are smarter than I am about your country. I don't know if that will work where you live. That was just helpful for where we did.
A very interesting question here. If you could speak to any audience in any room and share the stories you shared today, which room would you want to be in to make the biggest impact?
Well, my hope is that CEOs around the world hear us loud and clear and our words echo through their halls. And that is, we will never go away. And I think the more they realize that, the more they also understand they can't just keep a status quo, and that they're going to have to change. Because in my mind, the main reason they don't is because they think that we will go away. So what I would just recommend for all of us in whatever campaign we're waging, a core part is to make sure if the CEO or a legislator was given truth serum and they're like, hey, do you think they're ever going away? Hopefully their answer is no. They will never, ever, ever stop.
Okay, do you think the increase of the animal welfare increases the consumption of animal products because it makes people feel better about their purchases?
No. In fact, the studies show that if people start switching to, let's say, hey, an ordinary, I'll just say American diet, because from where I'm from, and let's say they switch and they're like, listen, I saw videos, I'm gonna start switching to maybe like free-range eggs. Those are the same people that then say, you know, maybe I should try that veggie burger too. Or hey, I know there's a new veggie chicken product. Well, maybe there's a plant-based egg out there called Just Egg. Maybe I should try that.
Coming to Europe soon.
Coming to Europe soon. And so the studies show that people, when they start moving in a direction, those are the people that can continue in a direction. Most folks don't go from just an ordinary diet, not thinking 1 second about animals, to then just going vegan like that. Most people don't do that. And I gotta say, most companies don't do that either. So many companies that have moved on animal welfare are also the companies that are like, hey, maybe we should start offering plant-based. And by the way, same thing with meat companies. So many meat companies that start moving away from the practices are also the ones that say, hey, maybe we should have a vegetarian line. Maybe we should have a plant-based line too. So I see this as one continuum in a similar direction of things just getting better. And by the way, my own view is that we should be Big Tent. If people are willing to change, bring them on the team. Bring them on. If someone's wanting to do meatless Monday, vegan before 6, whatever it is, hey, you're on the team. If you're willing to do nothing other than do action alerts for any one of your groups, you're on the team. It doesn't matter. As long as you start caring for animals, you're on the team. And hey, that's how I think we grow.
Nice. A rather technical question, maybe quite a quick one. Are farrowing crates for mother pigs still allowed in the US?
Farrowing crates?
Yes.
Yes, farrowing crates are used in the United States.
You answered too quickly. You don't actually have to answer this one, but someone is asking, how did you become so ferociously kind? It's a fair question. Yeah, as I said, no need to answer.
That's bullshit, Kirsty.
I didn't write it, I promise. Okay. Maybe 2 more questions just to end. and then you're free. And by the way, Josh is going to be around all weekend if you want to approach him, ask some more questions, talk to him about the work you're doing. I'm sure you would love to meet all these guys. And now the question about you being kind is the most upvoted one. So, but what is your advice to advocates? You kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but for long-term motivation, despite the difficulty of our work. You mentioned like doing stuff with friends. Is there anything else to help us keep doing this forever?
You know what I didn't say before? Is cherishing each victory. And the victories don't have to be like McDonald's to cherish, by the way. It is a victory when there's a good news article out there. It's a victory when, hey, we got a 12-location grocery store to go 100% cage-free. It's a victory when another pig producer says, I'm gonna move away from gestation crates. Every victory matters. And so what I find sometimes is that there is a lot of bad stuff going on. I know it. It's gonna happen for a long time. But the more we cherish the good things that are happening, I think that just keeps us going. By the way, can I just say, maybe this is, can I just end on this, Kirsty?
Sure.
Is that what I am going to cherish is that I am in a room with 500 people who are inspiring me because you're devoting your lives to help these animals. How lucky are we? We are not alone. Imagine if we were by ourselves doing this. Instead, right now in this moment, hundreds of people here, all super nice. Everybody wants to get to know each other. Everybody here is cheering for someone else to win. And we happen to be here together in Warsaw. I say, let's just cherish this. So there you go. That's my end, Kirsty. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.